This is an image that I cobbled together this morning, and I'm just going to go ahead and redo it for you so that you can get introduced to a whole bunch of different processes, which we're going to go ahead and explore in much more detail later on. So don't feel like you need to take notes. If I get a little deep in the weeds, just go ahead and try to absorb it, and it will all kind of come together and click later on, hopefully. So I'm going to go ahead and begin with a new image, 600 pixels by 600 pixels. And under advanced options for my background color, I'm going to choose transparency. In other words, there isn't going to be anything filled inside the image, as you'll see in just a second. By the way, the resolution of this one is 96 pixels per inch or dots per inch, and that's just fine for screen work. If I was going to get this printed, say at Walgreens or Costco, or get some prints made, I'd want that to be about 300 so it doesn't look quite so pixelated. But for a screen, that's perfect. And anything bigger than that just increases your file size. So when I went shopping for the different logos of operating systems, I just went ahead and Googled Windows logo, chose the Images tab, and then clicked on ones. And I wanted ones that were kind of square, and I'm going to make them or resize them 300 by 300. This one happens to be a PNG file. So see the checkerboard behind there? Doesn't have a white background, doesn't have a black background, it has no background. This image is only made of these four colored squares, and everything else is empty. And PNG is the file format that supports that. If we were using JPEG, it always has a background, and it's typically white unless you change it. Now to insert this, I could go ahead and copy it, and then jump back into GIMP here, and go ahead and paste it, Control V or Command V on a Mac, and it goes ahead and it puts it in. But the problem with doing it that way is that if I go ahead and scale this right now, and we're going to talk about scaling in a second, notice how it has a black background now, and I don't want that. So if I want to bring this into my drawing here, I'll just go Control Z. I need to instead right click, save image as, and now you'll notice down here on the bottom it is saving it as a PNG, and I'll go ahead and put it in the folder. So we'll just click cancel on that since I've already done that step. Coming back into GIMP now, I'm going to go ahead and open as a layer, and I'm going to come in and choose, let's see, there's my Windows logo, and see in the preview up here I've got the gray checkerboard. So I've got that one. Let's see, what else have I got? I got Linux, and again, notice it's a PNG. And let's see, my Apple, that one's a JPEG. See, it's got a white background. If you add the letters PNG into your Google search, it will go ahead and often return results that are PNG. Not that you can't work with a JPEG, and that's why I downloaded this Apple one as a JPEG, because we're going to go ahead and fix that. So, just that quickly, I've gone in and I've inserted these four layers, which have the file names. And you can think of these layers as transparent sheets of plastic that hold the art, the digital art on them. Much like an overhead projector, although you're probably too young to remember an overhead projector. But you probably remember it from when you were in third grade. But in any event, that's all that these layers are. And I can go ahead and turn the visibility on and off. I can select them and work on just those layers. And typically, you just work on one layer at a time. So let's go ahead and turn off the visibility of those, and let's go ahead and work with this Apple logo. So I'll select the layer, choose Select, click on it, and then make it 300 by 300. Now, I can tell it's not going to work, and I think this is just to deal with my computer. So I'm just going to go ahead and cancel and do that one more time and show you how I work around it. If you just go ahead and move it just a touch in the general direction you want to go, either making it smaller or making it bigger, it doesn't matter. Now when you type in 300, and I need to unlink the proportional blocking tool, so we'll make that 300, and now when I scale it, there's my image. So now I'll go ahead and click on the move tool and just pull that down there like so. And now I want to get rid of the white, so I'm going to choose the fuzzy select tool. The other program is called a magic wand, particularly Paint Shop. I'm going to grab those white pixels, then grab my eraser and delete them. And I missed a couple spots down here, and I just didn't realize that when I was doing it. So being the world's laziest guy, I don't want to have to do all that work one more time. So I'm going to go ahead and select that little byte, and then I'm going to hold down the shift key and see the little plus icon that came up and select that one. It just adds to the selection. There's other ways to do it, but I'll just erase that and then come up to select and choose none. And this is I mentioned this later on in the course a couple of times, but I'm going to mention it now. Lots of times you might have some little part of your drawing or your image selected, and what that does is it means you can only work inside the selected areas. So for example, if I wanted to go ahead and paint, say red, on my apple, see, I'm holding down the mouse button, nothing's happening up here, and you scratch your head and you go, well, what's up with that? But if I come down here, you can see that I went ahead and was able to paint it. Now, why did it paint white instead of red? That's because I wasn't paying attention. Up here, I didn't make that my foreground color. So now I can paint red. But we'll do a couple of undos because we don't want red. We just want that. So now I'll come up here and deselect everything, or select none. And then I'll go ahead and use the move tool here. Zoom out just one step. We'll put the apple about there. And then we'll just come through and work with these other ones. We don't need to turn them all off. I'll just go ahead and pick Mr. Linux here. Not move, but rather scale him. And just nudge him a bit. And that might just be a bug with my computer, I don't know, but and let's see, they're unlinked, so 300 by 300, and so that looks good. And then I'll click on the Chrome, scale it again. Oh, see, it's not, there we go. Okay, and so that's scaled. So finally I've got my Windows logo, which is massive. I have to zoom out. We'll nudge it down some. 300 by 300. Or actually, we'll just click on this again. Oh yeah, I made it just 30, so I need to just nudge it, click, put 300. I could also do an undo. And hopefully that's going to look good. So again, everything here is in their own layer, so I can work with them individually. I don't have to switch layers to move them, fortunately. GIMP just intuitively figures out what you want to do. Oh, see how this all got pixelated? That was because I made it small and then I tried to make it big again, which is something you can make them small. That's easy, but if you want to enlarge something, it kind of gets messed up. So I'm just going to take this and delete that layer, and then just quickly come back in here. I could do a bunch of undos too, of course, but let's see. Open as a layer, grab my Windows logo, click on the scale tool. Make it 300 by 300. And where'd it go? There it is up there. This 600 by 600 grid, by the way, that from my original drawing is called the canvas. So again, I'm kind of getting deep into the weeds here, but if I had that out there, I could come up under image and get my canvas to either shrink or grow to encompass all of my geometry like that. But I don't want that. Again, I'm just trying to take advantage of a teachable moment before you fall asleep. I'll zoom in some so I can see what I'm doing. And at this particular point, see, the apple's a little bit too tall, isn't it? So I'm going to cheat. I have to choose the apple layer. Layers do matter there. And I'm just going to drag this down some, just kind of eyeball it. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Nobody will know. You won't tell. So there we go. So now we need a background color. And so we'll come into our background here. And there's a couple of things that we're going to do at this point. One is we're going to take and color it. And then we're going to go ahead and round off the corners. So coloring it's pretty easy. We can pick any color we want. I happen to like the color that's there, but if I want to pick a color that's complementary, you can use this eyedropper tool. For example, I could pick this yellow in the penguin's toe, or the blue in the Windows logo, etc., and it will change my palette to that particular color. But I'm just going to go ahead and use a yellow here. And we'll just say okay. I don't know how it's going to look. But now I'm going to just go ahead and I could either paint, like so, or if I really want to be lazy, I can use the bucket tool and just click anywhere. Now, see, there's a little bit of a spot that I missed there. Not quite sure why that happened. So we'll just turn off these, come back to our brush tool, and just swipe through like that. And we'll turn back on the visibility here, and we'll pretend like we like that. Actually, it's not too bad. Let's just go ahead now and take it with this background layer here. Let's go ahead and take select all. And I don't know if you noticed it on the screen, but I've got the marching ants going around the outside of the box telling me that it is selected. Then under select, I'm going to choose a rounded rectangle. And GIMP doesn't give you a preview like some other programs do. So sometimes you have to guess and check. So I've done this before, so I know about 20 is about right. But if it wasn't, I have to do an undo and then, come in until I get just about what I want. So when I click OK, my selection set now has rounded corners. And so if I want to take and erase this part on the outside, I'll show you what happens here. I'll go ahead and swipe through. See, it's erasing my background. And I want it to erase the other stuff. So what I do is just come up under select and I invert it or turn it inside out. And now I can erase those corners. So now we're going to get really deep into the weeds here for a moment. And again, just try to hang on. I have my selection set, which I used to nip away the four corners. And so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to invert it again. So now what I have selected is the yellow part, the yellow area. So we'll undo that, and now I'm going to come up in what's called paths, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this button to take the selection and turn it into a path or a saved selection. Now the reason I did that is now I can come up and choose to add stroke. Stroke is just a line that, well, you know what stroke is. I mean, everybody does. But in any event, if you don't, well, just let me know. And so right now, my color, I need to change it. So let's just go ahead and make it black. And we have to pick a line width. So about 6 pixels sound good. And we'll just go ahead and click on stroke. And see how it added that black stroke around there? Now if I want to add more, I can just come up here and come into the stroke path. And let's just go ahead and bump that up to say 10. So in any event, let's just one very last thing we want to do here, and that is take and add a drop shadow. So I'll come up under filters here and then choose light and shadow, drop shadow. And again, you don't get a preview, but I've been diddling around with this from this morning, and so I'm going to just go ahead and stick with these values. And then we need to allow resizing. And what it's going to do is it's just going to make the canvas a little bit bigger. And there's our drop shadow. And it did make the canvas a little bit bigger, but that's fine. So at this point, we want to just go ahead and save it. So I'll choose Save As. I'll just call this 1. But what's really important is that this is an XCF format. That means it's a GIMP file. And because it's a GIMP file, you can only open it up in GIMP or other heavy-duty imaging programs like this. What you can't do with a GIMP file is take and include it or embed it in an email or post it on Facebook or do any of those sorts of things, because a web browser is not going to know what to do with a GIMP file. But we don't want to throw all this work away. If I want to come back tomorrow and change the background to a light blue, I'm going to need the GIMP file, or I'm going to have to start all over again. So we'll just go ahead and click Save. Now if I want to embed that in an email, what I'm going to do now is take and convert it into a form that we can use, such as a JPEG. So I'll say Export As, and it comes up as JPEG because I did that before. But if, for example, if you wanted to make it a PNG, and we'll just go ahead and do that. I'll choose PNG image. The extension changes. And I go ahead and choose Export. You should get one of these boxes that come up and save background color. I'm just going to turn that one off. Resolution's fine. So we'll just go ahead and export it. And so now I've gone ahead and opened up a new Google document. It could be a Word file, whatever. But now you're just going to go ahead and insert an image. And we're going to have to upload it. And let's see here. Did I put it in here? Yes, I did. So there's my PNG file. And there we go. And notice how, because it's a PNG file, it went ahead and maintained the transparency behind it. So the drop shadow really works. I'll just go ahead here, and then I promise I'm going to be quiet. Let's see, I got to get back into GIMP. Where'd that go? There we go here. So now I'm going to, if I want it as a JPEG, I can go ahead and export it as a JPEG. So we'll just change the file type. There it is. So we'll change the file name to 2. So let's see here. So okay, so I exported it as a JPEG. So now we'll go back into our untitled document, and I'm just going to I'm going to insert one on top of the other image, choose the one to upload. This one will be the JPEG, which is, it was 2. There we go. 2. That's the one there. So we'll say open. And there it is. And that looks like it's maintaining the transparency also. But if we come into our document settings here, or maybe it's under page setup, we change the page color to something different, like say orange. See the white on the JPEG? You don't see it on the PNG. So again, we'll cover more of that later, but that's the difference, and it's kind of a handy one to have or be aware of. Well, that took a lot longer than I thought it would, but if you hung in there, good for you. Like I said, it'll all be covered later, so if you fell asleep, don't feel like you have to start it over again. But go ahead and dive into the first lesson here on doing the coloring. It involves selecting and painting and erasing and inverting and many of those other things. So I hope this helped. If you have any questions about this, please let me know.